Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Hi, Mark. Good to see you.
Good
How
to
are
see
you?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
Great. I'm sorry about the change in the time. I completely forget every single time.
Yeah, I can't. It goes against my mentality as well. I can't think which direction things go. Time.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, just checking with you. You said that you'd sent me some links.
Were they not there?
No. If you could just send them to me again before we start, and I'll make sure I copy them into the chat. Okay. We've got time. Perfect. I was going to post the link to hancockmcdonald.com anyway. Is that one of them?
Yes, it probably is. There we go. I think
Let
that
me
should
just
do it.
check. Okay, I'm just refreshing my page. Sometimes it's a little bit slow. Okay, it hasn't appeared yet, but it will. My poor, slow, sluggish email system. One of them, just in case it doesn't come through for whatever reason, one of them is Hancock McDonald and the other one was a link to?
Well, there was quite a list of them actually.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, I'll wait for it to come through. It'll come through. It hasn't come through yet, but it will. There's no reason why it shouldn't.
I could actually put the slide. I'm going to try. I'll put the slides from today's talk. Copy. I'll try pasting them in myself while I'm here. See if it's possible. There we go. Paste.
Yeah, you might be able to put them in the chat already. There you go.
That one's come up, hasn't it? Yeah.
Yes, it has. That's brilliant. Good morning from Barcelona.
So this looks like it might work. I can see the chat and attend the meeting, present the meeting.
Did you come in through Zoom or through Hoover?
Through Zoom, yeah.
Oh, well, that's brilliant. In that case, try sharing your screen though, Mark, because what happened to me is the moment I shared my screen, I lost the chat. Okay, so just try sharing the screen and see what happens.
Are you getting any screen there?
Yes, I can see it with the parrot.
Yes. Can you see that only the parrot, or can you see the whole screen?
I can see the whole screen. Hold on, let me just put you on full screen, and I'll tell you what I see. I see the parrot and the writing on the left.
But do you see the Hoover app behind and my desktop?
I do. Yeah, I do because I'm in Hoover.
So it doesn't just, it's not just sharing the PowerPoint, it's sharing everything on my screen, right?
Can
you see all of my apps down the side?
No, I can't see anything. No, I can just see your PowerPoint. I've got the Hoover window, which is quite small, your PowerPoint within it, and then the gallery view of the attendees at the top, which at the moment is just you and me. But I can't see your screen,
I only ask because usually in Zoom, when you're sharing the PowerPoint, you can see a green outline around it, which shows you that that's the part that's being shared, and that's not happening.
Oh, I've got a green outline. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm obviously getting a different view from you.
Interesting.
We've got a couple more people coming in now. There seem to be 6 people in the room. So a few people will be going to the opening session, and some people will be joining us directly into this room. Just so that you know, I mean, you've probably seen it already, but we are being recorded. So Ryan starts recording from the moment that he opens the room, and then later on he'll trim it. Okay, so while we're just getting things set up and getting settled in, we're also on camera. That's for the attendees as well as Mark. Everybody, if you're in the room, it's a good idea to keep your cameras off and your microphones off, unless Mark wants you to put them on. So how is everything over there, Mark? Where are you based now? Is it Chester?
Chester.
It's lovely, isn't it, Chester?
Have you been to Chester?
I grew up in Shropshire, so it wasn't that a million miles away. So we
right.
used to have regular school trips to Chester.
Special treat.
Yes. Although, you know, the Welsh marches, for me, Chester is a particularly good example, but having grown up near Shrewsbury, I was quite familiar with it. It's a beautiful part of the world, really. But this was before Chester became terribly exclusive and expensive, I think. When I was growing up in the 80s, it wasn't considered anything like it, you know, footballers' wives territory. I don't know what it's like now. I haven't been for years.
Well, it's we chose it specifically. After Madrid, we left Madrid and we thought, well, where's the best place in England, in the northwest, more or less? Where's the best place to go? And chose it scientifically.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think that's a lovely part of the world. It's not too well known to be overrun, but very beautiful. Yeah, definitely. I'm keen on Herefordshire as well. That's a lovely part. That very, very few people. It's the least populated county in the UK, apparently.
Herefordshire, yeah.
Yeah, because it hasn't got anything major. People don't really know about it. So Shropshire as well. It's not very well known.
During the pandemic, Herefordshire managed to avoid it, seemingly.
Well, because there was nobody there. But it is beautiful. That whole part of the country is beautiful. So let's keep it a good, well-kept secret, shall we?
Everybody here knows about it now, right?
Well, there's only, I don't know, I can't see how many participants there are at the moment, but there aren't that many.
They won't be going to rushing to Chester tomorrow.
Chester as well. Oh, that was the thing. Chester Zoo we used to go to quite often. That still exists.
They made a television series about it.
They did, didn't they? That was the famous television series, which I've never seen. But yeah, that made it sort of famous again. So how long have you been back now?
Could be 6 years.
Yeah, and you've adjusted well to the change.
Yeah, well, it was necessary with the way my parents were.
Yeah,
one of those things.
Yes, you didn't expect what happened to happen. No, it's been quite an eventful 6 years in terms of politics and health and.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
All the other things going on. Okay.
So we've
got
a
few more people coming in.
Tom in Barcelona. We've got Maria in Burgos and Matthew in Orduña. Welcome to the class.
So we're starting at 9:40, Mark, but if you permit me, I'll just take a couple of minutes just to do a little bit of an introduction, a little bit of housekeeping and notes for people who are coming. Okay, I promise I won't take up too much of your time. And then we finish rather unusually at 25 past rather than 10:30.
Yeah.
Because today the timings are a little bit tighter. So we finish at 25 past and the next session starts at 30:30. So there's not much of a break between them. Okay. And if I remember rightly, I mean, you know what you're doing, so I don't need to remind you about coming to the 5 minutes from the end and everything now.
About doing what at 5 minutes from the end? Oh,
I don't need to give you a 5-minute warning.
No.
You'll be fine. No, I'm sure you will.
Okay. You can just switch me off halfway through a sentence.
I don't have that kind of power.
You don't?
No, not that I would do it anyway, but that's definitely not within my control. Oh, we've got somebody from Scotland, look.
Kevin. Hello, Kevin.
There's been a fantastic turnout over the last couple of days. Had people from South America who've had to get up extremely early.
Ah, yeah.
Oh, this must be something like 4 o'clock in the morning for them.
This is my second TESOL-SPAIN via Zoom, because last year we got in ahead of the curve by doing it on Zoom last year, because Salamanca, we had to cancel our trip to Salamanca because of the virus.
Well, it was just right before it all kicked off, wasn't it?
So people were saying, "Oh, you're overreacting by cancelling your trip. It's nothing more than the flu."
Exactly.
But, it turns out a different story.
Yes, I remember it well. It was actually a year ago yesterday that everything was cancelled in Spain. So it was March the 13th last year.
It was the week after Salamanca, wasn't it?
Exactly. We got back and then everything sort of fell to pieces. I remember at Salamanca, I was still hugging people, rather gingerly. But we weren't really taking it with the seriousness it deserved. Yes, so far. So far. Fingers crossed, we'll keep going.
Hello from Menorca. Hello, Menorca. That's Joanne.
I love Menorca.
Nice.
I seem to have lost the number of participants we've got in the room. I don't know if you can see that, Mark. Usually at the bottom there's a participants icon and it tells me how many people there are. 11, Joanne. You can see
11 in the Zoom. In the Zoom.
Yeah.
App, rather than the Hoover app.
That's right. For some reason, I seem to have lost my participants button, but it doesn't matter.
Alex Tregenza, are you rather a wet one? What is it? Does that mean it's raining? Or you just had a shower? Both.
Don't worry, Alex, you're not on camera.
Wouldn't be so sure. I can see it on my screen.
Can you? Okay, I can't see anybody apart from you.
Just joking, just joking.
You have a special camera. Okay, so we've got a couple of minutes to go. Well, I might just start. Chirimili. Oh, because Alex is up in the north. That's right. I think Alex is in Santander, aren't you? Wonderful, Chirimili.
No, I'm in Bilbao.
You're in Bilbao. Sorry, Alex. And it's chucking it down.
It is.
Oh, goodness. Well, I hate to tell you, but it's absolutely glorious here in Barcelona. I've got the windows open.
I've got the windows open, but it's chucking it down. It's really cold as well.
Oh, gosh.
Close the window, close the window.
No. You have to keep the windows open in the mornings.
Oh, I see. Okay, fair enough. Rules are rules.
Yes, annoy the children.
She comes from hearty stock.
I do. I come from Sunderland.
So it's 14 degrees with Cornish descent, I think, isn't it?
Yes.
14 degrees here in Barcelona and sunny.
Yeah, it looks nice. You can see the sun coming in on your bookshelves.
Yeah. It'll start blinding me in a minute. It depends on the angle it's coming in. Right, we've got a minute to go. There are a few people in the room now. So I'm going to start doing my little speech. That way I don't take away too much time from Mark's presentation. Just checking, everybody, that you are in the right room. This is Mark Hancock, and he's giving his presentation on top 6 pronunciation issues for Spanish speakers. Okay, so I doubt very much that you're in the wrong room, but just in case, you never know. My name is Jessica Mackay, and I'm the area coordinator for TESOL-SPAIN in Barcelona. Just a few housekeeping notes before we start. We are recording this session, so if you don't want to appear on camera, please keep your camera off, and please keep your microphones off as well, unless Mark asks you to put them on for any particular reason. Okay. The recording will be made available on the Hoover app for up to 6 months after today. So if you want to let other people know who haven't been able to attend the session, it will be available. As usual, I'll be posting some questions in the Q&A box for the attendees who want homologación, and they should answer these questions in the Q&A box. I'll post them both in the chat and the Q&A, but if you could answer them in the Q&A, that would be great. If you have any questions for Mark, I don't know if Mark has got time to answer them at the end. We'll see how it goes. But if you have questions, please post them in the Q&A box as well. And the Q&A and the chat will be open after the session. So I'll pass those on to Mark. Any general chat, any comments, you can just make them in the chat box. Okay. If you have any tech problems, the best solution we found so far is just to refresh your screen. That usually solves the problems. Depends which device you're using. Sometimes you can see the speaker and the presentation at the same time. Sometimes when the speaker shares the presentation, you lose the speaker screen. It happens more often on PCs and laptops than it does on mobile devices. So just so you know, there's no technical issue there. It just depends on the device that you're using. Certificates will be sent out by email after the conference has finished. We'll be talking today until 10:25, and that's enough of me. Mark needs very little introduction. We all know him and love his materials. He's extremely generous with his materials on his website, but we know and love his books and materials as well, more recently the Prawn Pack series. Okay, and I'm sure we'll have plenty of opportunity to talk about those. Okay, so thank you very much, and I'm passing it over to you, Mark.
Thank you, Jessica, and good morning, everybody. So this talk is about pronunciation issues for Spanish speakers of English. So it was actually something I've been thinking about quite a lot recently, because I just recently published this book, Prawn Pack 5, Pronunciation of English for Spanish Speakers, simply because I know more about Spanish than most other languages, having lived in Madrid for quite a long time. Currently don't live there anymore. I moved to Chester here in England, where it's a cloudy morning as usual. Anyway, on to business. I called it the top 6 pronunciation issues, just to make the task doable. And here they are on my whiteboard behind me. Look, and they're going down from 6 down to 1 in a kind of countdown. Can somebody's got their microphone on? Maybe you could switch your microphones off, everybody. Make sure they're all off, because some noise is coming through. Yeah, so starting with number 6, initial consonant clusters. And then number 5, semivowels w and y. Number 4, the R vowels, such as IR, UR, ER. Number 3, grammar endings. That's the S endings, plurals, possessives, etc., and ED endings. Number 2, slippery stops, B, D, G. And number 1, cutting off ends of words. So they're more or less in order of importance, getting more important as you go down the list. Number 1, the most important of all, in my personal opinion. So let me try you with a little test. What do you think the student's problem is here? I don't sleep during the siesta. I don't sleep during the siesta. There's a pronunciation mistake in this. Okay, everyone's identified the problem being asleep. It should be sleep. So this student has added an extra syllable before the S in sleep. Bit of a difficult consonant cluster at the beginning there. So that's point number 1, or number 6, sorry, of my descending order of points to deal with. I thought I might begin with this little rhyme here. I'm going to read it 3 times in quick succession. And you have to simply listen and decide if I say the A or the B version of each line. So, see a parrot speak, watch a parrot play, hear a parrot spell, make the parrot stay. See a parrot speak, watch a parrot play, hear a parrot spell, make the parrot stay. See a parrot speak, watch a parrot play, hear a parrot spell, make the parrot stay. A or B? Okay. Someone's saying B there. Someone's saying A, B. Interesting. Yeah. Well, I'm glad I managed to make the difference clear. Although it was actually intended to be a trick question, because I think certainly in my accent, A and B are identical. You see, what happens is that the S at the end of parrots links to the following word, so you can't tell if the S belongs to the following word or this word. And another thing, interestingly enough, the P, letter P in speak is actually pronounced more like a B, because it has no aspiration when it's in a consonant cluster like this. So it's not really distinguishable from a B there. So these two turn out to be homophones. Yes, trick question. Sorry about that. Now, is this what happens is that for your students, it's likely that these would not be homophones, because for the B, your students might say, see a parrot speak, putting an extra syllable in before the speak. And here is how I would analyze what that is. In the my version, speak has a consonant, consonant, vowel, consonant. Whereas in the student version, is speak, there's vowel, consonant in one syllable, and then consonant, vowel, consonant in the other syllable. So what's happened here is this consonant, the S, the S, in my version, is at the beginning of a syllable, whereas in the student's version, it's at the end of another syllable. This extra syllable added at the beginning, the S is at the end of it. So apart from adding an extra syllable, a lot of students will actually change the pronunciation of the S because it's appearing at the end of a syllable. What tends to happen is that consonants at the end of a syllable get reduced by Spanish speakers. So in some accents, it might be changed into something resembling an H, like peak, and that becomes problematic. So perhaps adding an extra syllable on its own might not be too bad, but if it turns into a different kind of phoneme altogether, then it's getting problematic. That's why I included this in my list of 6. I'm just going to share a screen here. So here's an activity you could do with students. They've got to try and pronounce B like A, but not like C. And so one student says the sentence, and the student has to say A, B, or C, and hopefully not C. You could think of A as being a trick to help the students get it right. If they can't say B right, just get them to say A instead, and that'll do the trick. Now, Next issue. Here's another diagnosis question for you. Could you like a cup of coffee? Would you like a cup of coffee? Would you like a cup of coffee? What's the problem there? Okay, so Noemi is saying good, would. Also Raquel there. Yes, it's this word at the beginning. There's a strange thing with w, that students have a difficulty pronouncing the w, and there's also a tendency to stick a kind of a g in front of it. It's especially difficult before a vowel such as u, so would, woman. Why? Because the vowel sound is similar to the w sound, so it's difficult to separate them. What students need to work on, need to be aware of, is the sheer force of muscular effort that needs to go into the w, 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 w. So to go the first syllable in woman, for example, w, w, you can see how the lips start really tense and then relax, w, w, w. Students tend to go things like this, uman or uguman. So you've got to focus on that relaxation from the strong w into the w. And the thing about the G, well, here's this is my friend Harry Halfhead. What happens with the G is that the tongue touches at the back of the mouth just here. Strangely, and you've got to make your students aware of that and tell them not to do it. So in order to make them aware of this place in the mouth where their tongue is touching, try here's a little trick. Try saying g, but breathing in instead of breathing out, like this. It's a weird experiment, but I'll tell you what happens. You feel a cold patch where the contact is made here. And this helps you to understand the place in your mouth that I'm talking about. This is where the students have got to be aware of it and try to avoid the tongue touching there when they say w, so they don't get good instead of would. And you could then get them to practice with this poem. Coming up in a minute. A woman with a woolen hat was walking in the wood. Everything was wonderful, everything was good. A wicked wolf appeared, just like we knew it would. Stories always have a wolf waiting in the wood. I've actually put that on the Hancock MacDonald website if you want to try it out with the audio and everything. So I'll just put a link. Sorry, I'm just going to try and put a link in the chat box there. Ah, Jessica's already done it. Thank you. So that was point number 5. I've moved the page on. Point number 5 was the semi-vowels were. I'm not going to do both. That was just the example of the were. Moving on to the next one. Diagnose this. Have you ever seen a grizzly bear? Have you ever seen a grizzly bear? Yes, bear is the answer. Bear and beer, always getting mixed up. And this is an example of what I want to talk about next, which is the R vowels. Let me explain what I mean by the R vowels. If you come over here, Yes, over here, look, this way. This is the vowel system on my chart of, there we go, the vowel system. And on the outer circle, you've got the longer vowels. On the inner circle, the lax or the short vowels. You'll see that on the outer circle, amongst the long vowels, you've got 5 which have a little r in brackets: ear, hair, arm, fork, and bird. Those 5 vowels I call the R vowels because they are closely associated with a letter R. In all of the examples there, you can see there's a letter R following the vowel, which may or may not be pronounced depending on your accent. Whether you pronounce R or not, the vowel is affected by an R which comes after it. So in the example of the beer and bear, it's these two getting mixed up. So those are the R vowels, and I think they're problematic. They're problematic in Spanish for three reasons, 3 principal reasons. 1, spelling. 2, if there is another consonant following the R, it tends to be elided. And 3, there's one particular R vowel which is which is particularly problematic for Spanish speakers. So let me talk you through the problem here with I'll show you a slide. So there are vowels there. In the first column, you've got the IPA symbol. In the second column, a common spelling. And third column, an example word with the common spelling. And then in the fourth column, you've got alternative spellings. And one thing you will notice is that, just a moment, let me find the pen. I haven't got a pen. All right, well, I hope you can see my cursor. You can see that the bear is there with the air and the hair and the care and the there. But here is the here and so on. So you can see that the EAR spelling is most commonly in the ear vowel. And bear is an unusual spelling of the air vowel. So it's not surprising if your students mix up bear and beer, given that the bear pronunciation is rather an unusual one for that particular spelling combination. So it is true to say, I think, that the R affects vowels and it makes the spelling a little bit more unstable than is even normal for English, which is saying something. So spelling is problematic with R vowels. That's one thing. The other thing I mentioned was the elision of a consonant which follows the R. For example, let's take the example of board. Spanish students will tend to pronounce the R, bor, and then elide anything which comes after it. Pronouncing the R in itself is not problematic. It's typical, for example, in a Scottish accent or the American accent pronounced in a different way, but the R is pronounced as well. So pronouncing the R is clearly not a problem, but if you elide the consonant which follows, that's problematic. And the other one I was mentioned, the third point was the vowel here. This neutral vowel doesn't exist in Spanish, and it takes a bit of getting used to, because in order to create this sound, you need to have a kind of slack mouth, where nothing is, the tongue is not forward, not back, jaw is not open, not closed, it's all somewhere in the middle. That's why in English we use this sound for hesitation when we can't think of something. You have to pull a stupid face. Call it the stupid vowel. So all of these words, bird, turn, serve, worth, earth, journey. Students are going to tend to try to pronounce them according to the spelling, not realizing that the R neutralizes the vowel before it. So students are likely to try and say something like this: torn, serve, word. So that particular neutral vowel is problematic. You could practice with this picture here. Look, get students to make sentences about the picture using the words at the bottom. If you want to make it into a game, they can make true or false sentences. For example, there are 5 birds in the sky, true or false? So you could demonstrate with a few examples of your own, and then students could do it in pair work. Just a picture, chock-a-block full of R vowels for them to practice the pronunciation after you've talked about it a little bit. So that's the R vowels. Moving on. Another diagnosis problem for you. Anna placed the guitar. Anna placed the guitar. Yes, plays. Place, plays is the S endings stuff. Place and plays is a minimal pair, isn't it? And students have a problem with these S endings, the plurals, the possessives. So here's an activity to deal with that. It's a maze. It's a bit disappointing. I can't get a pen here, but you're just going to have to go with my cursor if you can see it. Can you see my cursor? All right. So we're going to do the the S endings here. And first off, we've got the is, like Jess's dresses. Here, Jess's, we have to insert a vowel to separate the S from the S. And students have a real difficulty with this because it's not there in the spelling. So they're trying to say Jess, which is awkward for them and awkward for me as well. Jess's dresses. So yes, just insert a vowel when you have to. Jess's dresses. Where do we go after that? Jess's dresses. We go to straight down to Alice's palaces. And then Grace's places. Chris's kisses, etc. That's for the is. Why do you add this extra vowel here, but not for the other ones? We'll ask that question in a moment. Let's have a look at S. You've got Bert's shirts. After Bert's shirts, you can go to Pip's trips. By the way, these slides are all available. Could you put the slides up again in the chat box, Jessica? The slides are all available right now from Hancock MacDonald website. Pip's trips, Rick's tricks, etc. So that's the S, and then the Z. You got the bee's knees, Joe's toes, Well, I'm going to go straight to the answer key. There you go. Having done that, you could ask students to do that more or less by instinct. And then you could get them to try and work out if they can see any patterns, particularly for the is, the extra syllable one. And what students tend to say is something like, well, because it's impossible to pronounce it without the extra vowel. And that's pretty much the right answer. That's good enough. It's basically, you could do this either instinctively or you could more scientifically if you want. If your students are used to using the chart, you could show them something like this. The S endings are Z, except if the word ends with one of these in blue here, it ends with a S, and if it ends with one of those in that group there, it ends with is. Usually, I don't need to get that technical with students, but if you happen to be teaching them using the chart, then you can do that. People in the chat have mentioned the plays difference between the Z and the S, and it's about this voicing thing where you can go Z, and you can feel the vibration here on your hand, or you can stick your fingers in your ears, Z, and your head seems to explode. And those things don't happen if you go S, S, no vibration. So that's another approach you can get to if you want to distinguish between place and plays. Right, moving on. I don't know if you ever come across this one. Let's go to the puff drink. Let's go to the puff for a drink. Let's go to the puff for a drink. Yes, Noemi, pub. Let's go to the pub for a drink. Why do students say puff when they mean pub? Or paff. Very often you get paff. It's to do with what I call slippery stops, which is what's coming next. Slippery stops. Well, here we go. Here's some slippery stops. You've got the b, d, g are different in Spanish according to the position in the syllable. So here you've got bailar vaso, and here you've got cabo, lavar. So here the sound is a fricative, and here it's a stop. And the spelling is totally ambivalent. The B and the V interchangeable. Here you've got dinero or lado. So here it's a fricative, here it's a stop. Guiso, agua. Stop and a fricative. That's in Spanish, and students tend to transfer this to English, this variability of the three stop sounds into their English, which is problematic, I believe. So I'll just look at the example of the BV problem here. Here we go. It's a little chant. Barry had a berry vest. On it was a berry. The vest was the best. Was it cool? Yes, very. Barry had a berry vest. On it was a berry. The vest was the best. Was it cool? Yes, very. Yeah, and just in case you are wondering what Barry looks like, here he is. In paper mache model. This is Barry with his berry vest. On it was a berry. Look, there's the berry on the berry vest. So Barry had a berry vest. On it was a berry. The vest was the best. Was it cool? Yes, very. So yeah, a little rhyme here, but you've got a couple of minimal pairs. You've got berry, very, and vest, best. For a student, those two, they're all likely to be pronounced the same, those the beginnings of those words, as they would following Spanish rules. But for English, they need to distinguish them. For the B, encourage your students to always make sure that their lips close completely for the B. For the V, on the other hand, their teeth need to be visible. V, B. It doesn't happen in Spanish, does it? It's a bit like the F, but without the force. The F does exist, so you could maybe use that as a way in. But what the students need to do is make sure that they can see in a mirror or in their phones, they can see their teeth, top teeth going into the bottom lip. V. If they want to be really original about it, they could do the bottom teeth into the top lip like this. V. It works. It just looks stupid. Right. So here's a game you could use to oblige your students to make the difference clear between these consonants. And it's a question of finding a place on the map, right? So for example, if I say pub, boat, that was pub and boat. It's going to take you to Madrid. If I say vet, boat, anybody? Vet, boat? You can write in the chat box where you're going to here. Vet, boat. Ah, Malaga, yes, Malaga. Yes. Is it warm in Malaga? I guess it's warm down there today. It's cold up here. Right, next. Bet, vote. Bet, vote. Okay, if you read my lips, bet, vote. That was a. So you can do that with you speaking and the students finding, and then the student speaking and the other students finding. You can do it. You can do a little tour where they go from one city to another, to another, to another, and the listener has to follow the tour. Various things you can do with that, and the idea is it obliges the students to make the difference, and it shows them that if they don't make the difference, the meaning is lost. Slippery stop consonants. That was number 2. So that leaves us back to number 1. And the last diagnosis problem. Close the window if you feel cold. This is a message for Alex Tregenza. Close the window if you feel cold. Cold is the problem. It's cold. So yes, cold. This is number 1 issue, in my opinion, for Spanish-speaking learners, is missing the ends of words. In that instance, it was a consonant cluster at the end. Generally speaking, students need to develop the habit of paying more attention to the ends of words, not be so relaxed about it. I guess Spanish has evolved in such a way that it doesn't matter too much about the end of a word because there isn't a lot of information loaded there. In any case, words tend to end with a vowel. In English, you need to put some effort into the ends of words, and students, they're going to have to find themselves artificially, if you like, paying attention, attending to the end of words to make sure that they don't drop them off. So here's an example of an activity you could use. You've probably seen this activity before because I've shown it before at TESOLs. But this version of the activity is focusing on the endings of words. So if I say A, you're going left. If I say the B word, you go right. So for example, burn, left. Guess, left. Belt, right. Start, right. New York. And I put them in the context of little sentences just to make it a little bit more fun. So let's do it. You listen and tell me where you get to. Right? They burnt wood. They burnt wood. Number one, they burnt wood. Number two, your guess was correct. Number three, the bell was broken. Number four, press the star button. Press the star button. Yeah. Let's see. Did anybody get to an interesting city there? Oh yeah, people are going to Buenos Aires. Yeah, that's exactly where I went. So clearly, a miracle of communication has occurred right here. So what you do that a few times, teacher to student, and then student in pair work or group work, they do it with each other. And the idea is that it obliges them to focus on the endings of words, because when they get to the wrong city, they start working out what went wrong, and they find that it's probably because they didn't pronounce the ending of the word clearly enough. And okay, they might end up exaggerating the ending. So they might be saying things like they burnt wood, they burnt wood. If a student ends up exaggerating in this fashion, it's not a bad thing, because exaggerate to begin with, and then over time, it'll settle down to something more normal. But in the short term, it's good for them to pay plenty of attention to the consonants there at the end of the words, plenty of attention, and not to reduce them. All right, so that was point number 6. I guess we've got 5 minutes for questions. Have we got any questions there? Jessica?
Hi, Mark, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, let's just have a look. Can you see the question and answer box?
Q and answer.
No, I think you can't, probably, that's just me. Lots of questions about the name of the book and
okay.
the website. So I've put the links into what was the name of the website?
Okay.
There's some comments here in the question say pronunciation is the pending subject of Spanish learners. Okay.
Sorry, the pending subject.
The pending subject, I suppose it means that it's one of the neglected subjects of Spanish learners. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it's well known or well documented that Spanish learners lag behind, for example, Portuguese learners, possibly because of this business of dubbing that has been very common in Spain, possibly because the phonetics, the phonetic system of Spanish is more different. I'm not sure, But yes, I think it requires a lot of attention. Perhaps it's been neglected.
We tend, it tends to be the exercise that is skipped over if teachers are short of time, no?
There is that. And so, yeah, go ahead.
There's some comments here from Merce and Carmen saying how challenging it is to teach pronunciation, and why would it be so difficult to teach pronunciation in a Spanish context?
Well, I don't know. Maybe teachers who feel inadequate in their own accent might think that they want to avoid it. There is that. Some teachers who believe that they have to sound like the Queen or something, some model of English which is totally inappropriate. They might feel that they're not up to it, or they might feel from their courses, teacher training, that it all seemed very technical, and I think it really needs to be dealt with in a much simpler way. Like with grammar, for example, we have a pedagogic grammar. It's a simplification. It's not the real grammar. Why can't we treat pronunciation in the same way? Have a pedagogic pronunciation, something which is simple and sweet and doesn't focus on a particular native variety, such as the Queen's English or General American, but just on a general intelligible pronunciation, lingua franca kind of pronunciation. I think that would make it a lot less daunting for people. Yes, there's some comments here in the chat saying, Emma's saying that the Queen has got the most ridiculous accent anyway. So yeah. You wouldn't want to use that as a model. I was trying to be a bit diplomatic. There was a comment, an interesting comment in the Q&A box. I think it was Carmen was saying it's crucial to give our students, to enable them to be intelligible. Okay, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they have to have a model native-like accent. It's a little bit what you're saying, no? It's to reach this level of intelligibility. Yes, okay. So it's not a question of sounding like a native speaker or any particular native speaker or any native speaker. You don't have to do things because native speakers do them. A good case in point is the famous schwa, which a lot of people say, oh, it's the most common sound in English, therefore you've got to get your students to perfect their schwa. Not true. You can get away without it, and you can be perfectly intelligible without it. So it's important for listening, yes, but for speaking, not necessarily. We're focusing on things which are unnecessary. Brilliant. Well, there's lots of comments agreeing with you, Mark. No more questions for the moment, unless anybody has a quick question they want to add to the chat. But lots of appreciation for the talk. And I don't know if you've been able to look at the chat as you've been going on while you're in Zoom, but lots of people who are already using your activities and are very, very keen and are very happy about your activities. With your permission, Mark, I'll put your contact details, the links that you sent me, into the chat box now. So if anybody has any more questions, then maybe they could contact you via, or have it go directly to the website or via social media. So I'm posting these into the chat now. These are the different links that Mark has shared with me. Okay, so you've got him on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and his email address. Okay, and just lots and lots of thanks coming in, as you can probably see. Enormous appreciation coming through the chat box. Wow. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for coming, and you've got 5 minutes to get before the next talk, so you better get moving. Right? Thank you for coming. Thank you, Mark. Bye. Okay, so that I don't need to tell you. Thank you very much. Bye, everybody. Bye.